We don't know if Vegas Golden Knights owner Bill Foley has let the cat out of the bag, but did he hint that maybe next season we'll have an all-Canadian division? How would that be, like, to have an all-Canadian division? As well, I also want to talk about in this video is next season, sounds like next season for the NHL is not going to start till January 1st. Well, they mentioned that maybe there'll be a game at Lake Louise. That would also be interesting. So those are the couple things we'll talk about, and just speculate on how long next season is going to be. Is if they want to start next season in January and then have the Stanley Cup awarded, let's say at the end of June or maybe early in July. I do not see any scenario where they could play all 82 games at this stage, and then still unknown on between the fans being allowed the game and also the border closure, which is I'm going to say why there's a possibility. It would definitely be a lot of fun for Canadian hockey fans if we had an all-Canadian division, and then with the border closure still being in effect and not having to subject themselves to quarantine unless, somehow the league can, convince the government that, we're testing these players daily, they're going through all this, that would they still be allowed to cross the border? But I have seen some, graphics online that they propose that it would have to be just next season, that if there is going to be an all-Canadian division, that instead of having, the traditional divisions and conferences, that you'll have, I saw like a West Division where you have like the three California teams, Colorado, Arizona, and Vegas all playing one. And then the Central Division, you would have, like your St. Louis, your Minnesota, your Chicago, Detroit, and I think it would also include like Nashville and the Florida teams with the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then you have an East Division, which pretty much will encompass much of the Metropolitan and the Atlantic teams all close together with the Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, Washington and New York Rangers, New York Islanders, Jersey, and those teams, and then have all 7 Canadian teams in the one division. You almost have to wonder. It'll definitely be could be a huge disparity when it comes to competition. How they get games in, and then also how many games you got to wonder. I mean, I have to think it'll have to be between 48 to 60 at this stage. If the parameters are that next season is going to start not until January 1st, that's what it sounds like it's going to be now. And that if you want the Stanley Cup to be awarded, at the traditional time to try to compress the schedule. And then, how much travel is there going to be? I mean, you could cut down on travel. If they did just for this case, like what Major League Baseball did with their divisions. But it's just got to wonder how they're going to still see the playoffs. Could we potentially see expanded playoffs again next season? But there wouldn't be a need for to have a longer play-in series if they still want to do bubbles, but it's still all fluid at this stage right now. It would be very interesting to have it would be a lot more rivalries, and I would think other than right now with Ottawa still rebuilding, you could probably say many of the Canadian teams have a good shot at being a contender, I would say. And then when you look at, like the West Division, the Central Division, and the East Division, while the Metropolitan looks like it's already going to be still a tough division, and I would say it's the toughest division. While the Central, some of the competition has weakened in the Central. And then out in the West, Vegas is still going to be a tough team, and then, you never know where the California teams are at, but it will make that very interesting. And I would say the TV ratings will definitely go through the roof, and it would be nice to have some, weekend back-to-backs with Canadian teams facing off on each other. But that was just one proposal, because I don't see a scenario where an 82-game season will happen if the season will not start to January. Even if you somehow played like 4 games every week, you could cut up bye weeks and there won't be an all-star game and all that. I think you can maybe still compress maybe up to 70 games, because it would be nice if they have the regular season and Stanley Cup get awarded when it usually gets awarded. I know the other pressure with the NHL that they're also working with is not to have hockey go in the summer, not only because of just the different time of the year, but NBC, one of the contracts, the American TV deal, that the NHL needs to try to get a new TV deal as well. Well, NBC also broadcasts the Olympics, and we don't know yet if there's any confidence that the Olympics that were supposed to be in Tokyo this year, and given what's all been going on, why these videos that have been made and NHL updates have been happening. But if the Olympics do happen next year, well, the NBC has the broadcasting rights for the Olympics, and I think it's obvious where NBC would rather show. They'd rather show the Olympics than, Stanley Cup Playoffs in the summer. So there's that as well, working for the NHL. But it would be nice to have hockey start, next year at this time, when it usually does, as well, with the, Seattle Kraken coming in. And, it was definitely a little weird to talk about the draft and free frenzy in October instead of in the summer. So that's just one thing, but you got to wonder, there was this idea thrown out about having an outdoor game in Lake Louise. It would definitely be very, very picturesque and beautiful to have a hockey game played at Lake Louise. It's just how you're going to pull it off. I mean, also, is it just, more of the spectacle to have hockey back? I mean, there'll have to be some people around in Lake Louise because, they got the Chateau Hotel right where the Lake Louise is, and it is definitely one of the more picturesque sites in the country. And being that I live in Calgary, and, it's your 2-hour drive from Calgary to Lake Louise, and it's always my traditional first stop when I do my annual spring vacation, just to see how much snow and ice is still at Lake Louise. I mean, they do have pond hockey tournaments, and you could skate on the ice, and it would definitely be a beautiful spectacle. And I would have to assume that if it happens, that the Calgary Flames will probably play in that game. And would it be several games? I mean, it's just an idea that's thrown out there, because I don't think the Winter Classic will happen in a stadium this year. But I remember that when the Calgary was bidding and had their bid to get to host the 2011 Heritage Classic, which ultimately was played at McMahon Stadium with the Calgary Flames and the Montreal Canadiens, which I did actually take that in, as well as the face-off to Foothills when we had the Calgary Hitmen play the Regina Pats the next day. It was definitely a beautiful spectacle, and was also a little neat and strange at the same time to go to the stadium where you always watch football to watch hockey. But at least that there's a stadium already set. I mean, it's different to have it operated during the winter, but as beautiful and spectacle as it is, it would be a lot tougher to have hockey played out at Lake Louise in a national park as well. And then, speaking of it being in Banff National Park, apparently Parks Canada has not received any proposals, or the league hasn't even talked to them about them having a hockey game being played at Lake Louise. So you got to wonder. I think it's a pipe dream, especially we're only 2.5 months out from January 1st as of this recording. It would be beautiful if it ever happened. I mean, you could also say, there would be other potential picturesque sites that you could have a hockey game played just for an outdoor game to be different and away from baseball and outdoor stadiums. But I doubt it's going to happen. It would be beautiful if it happens. I mean, it's just a matter of, how you're going to get, the teams and equipment out there. I mean, Calgary is the closest airport to Banff National Park. I mean, everybody would have to come to Calgary and then get transported out to Lake Louise. I mean, it would definitely be great for, obviously the tourism that get rooms nearby. I mean, you got obviously the chateau, and if you want to be very rustic and be, sucker for older hotels, I did actually stay at the Deer Lodge myself, which is nearby the Chateau Lake Louise. It's definitely very rustic, and it definitely takes you back. But I am a sucker for those older hotels that you're still within a close walk to Chateau and see, the sunrise, sunset at Lake Louise. I mean, it's expensive, but everything is in the Canadian Rockies, but as picturesque as it is. But yeah, it definitely would be an interesting spectacle if that happens. I doubt it will happen. But I do see that potential of a Canadian division happening next season. I mean, the other scenario that I could see, if it wasn't for the border closure with Canada and the U.S., and there's no word that's going to open until cases get under control. I mean, both sides of the border at this stage are going to have to get cases under control now because there's been rising cases. So, and then there's that messy part about it's the Quarantine Act where if you can travel out of the country, you need to isolate for 14 days. That's going to be the other thing that's going to be interesting too is depending where things are at, making trades. I'm sure there'll be times where a Canadian team and an American team might want to make a trade. How's that going to work? Making a trade and it's like you acquire the player coming from an American team to a Canadian team. It's like, yeah, well, he's not available for 2 weeks because he has to isolate. I can't. Up to this point, I can see a potential where the league could play to the government, saying that we're testing our players and this is our protocol. But the government shut down Toronto Blue Jays playing in Toronto this past season at the last minute. So it is what it is. I can't see a full season next season and having playing every team. And this would definitely be another unique idea to have a Canadian division and increase the rivalry for sure. TV ratings will definitely go through the roof with their TV contract. And then you also hear that, speaking of the American TV deal, that the ratings aren't as high when they're playing a Canadian team. And that would also could help with the TV deal for the U.S. To promote more of the American rivalries, the Battle of New York, you could have the original six matchups a lot more. Maybe rivalry Arizona and Vegas, that rivalry we've been trying to pick up. Or Vegas and San Jose after that emotional series. And, St. Louis, Chicago, or, Colorado, Detroit. There's just many other possibilities, especially with the, restricted travel. But those are just ideas that I've been hearing. But it's like Bill Foley kind of spit that out, that there's going to be a Canadian division next season, and I think next season will all just be because of what's been going on, and this will just be a one-season thing. But hopefully, we'll eventually get hockey, games will get played, whatever it is, and hopefully, we can still get eventually fans in attendance. The more I keep thinking about it, the only way, let's say locally here, that if they allow fans in attendance, let's say if they only allow 4,000 or 5,000 fans at the Saddle Dome, it would have to be under a lottery system like it happens here locally for playoff games where, there's obviously more demand for playoff games for buying single tickets that you have to register to be in the lottery. And then you get an email if you say, yes, you can go have the right to buy a ticket or not buy a ticket. I just think that's how it's all going to work here, if they do allow fans. But I know that the other day I made a video talking about that the WHL is looking at starting their next season January 8th, the week after New Year's, and that what they're only going to be doing in that season is that divisions are only going to play each other. So they say, as I follow the Calgary Edmonton are only going to play divisional teams, and then that also eliminates the border travel because you got an American division in the Western Hockey League where the American teams are only going to play each other and not have to worry about that. But we're also talking about 16 to 20-year-olds, and there's not as much money that's made in the Western Hockey League or any junior hockey leagues where they're a lot more dependent on fans being at the game because they don't have the big mega TV deal. But I just say, what do you think of all the ideas that you've heard and seen about? Are we going to have a Canadian division next season? Or is there going to be all special divisions made just to cut down on travel? And I'm just going to think, how many games are we going to have in the 2020-21 season? I'm thinking between 48 to 70. I don't see 82 games. You can maybe get it up to, 70 games if we play 4 games a week. Try to have more back-to-backs for, to get the games in. Reduce travel. The fans in some markets are allowed to go to the game, and that's the other thing that could be messy too is some markets they might allow fans at the game where others they don't. They're going to have to obviously share revenue much more that way as well for teams that, couldn't make the fan revenue with fans at the game and not. That's another thing the league will still figure out, but there hasn't been a schedule yet. But I'd be okay with a Canadian division next season. I know some were even talking about that they were having a Canadian division all the time, but that'll make travel hard, and it's just how to break it up. But it will make the games a lot more intense and interesting because we always have the reputation that Canadians are nice, but we're prideful with our sports, and that's the thing. We'll definitely be a lot more heated and the rivalries would build up. And I would say in the U.S., they can build up more of their other traditional rivalries, especially when the NHL is looking at trying to get a new TV deal for the U.S., and that's also going to be critical. And that's also why the league still needs to, make, games so they can still exist, because it would definitely be more devastating than it is, and they would lose even more money if we didn't play at all as opposed to playing. It's going to be a reduced schedule. I can't see a scenario with 82 games if they want Stanley to be awarded, let's say, at the end of June. And lockout shortened season showed that I think the latest that a lockout shortened season started was like January 20th. They had 48 games, and that the Stanley Cup was awarded at the end of June, where they compressed the playoffs a little because the playoffs did not start until end of April or early May in one season. I think the 94-95 season, that the season did not end until the first week of May. And then they still got the playoffs in. And I also did remember 95, that the Stanley Cup Finals also was a sweep that year when the Devils beat the Red Wings. But those are other examples you can look at. But I think in this case, because of what's been going on, I think they'll purposely add a few more games. There'll be a lot more back-to-backs. Maybe, for example, if going back to the Canadian division, playing, let's say the Flames will play the Oilers or Canucks Friday, Saturday night, back-to-back. Something different, or you even saw in the Hockey Buzz that maybe to be a doubleheader. If fans are not allowed the game, where you would play, let's say, two teams back-to-back in the same day, where you play in the afternoon and the evening. That's the only other way I could potentially see 82 games being played, but then they'll need to expand the rosters too, as well. That you need to carry more bodies in case, if you're going to play more games in a shorter time. Although you also got to wonder how is that going to work with the salary cap as well. I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions. And do you see a game happening at Lake Louise? I don't think this year. It'd be a nice pipe dream, but that's just a few more NHL updates. This is all more of a speculative updates as opposed to, yes, this source says this is going to happen, this source is going to that happen. But Bill Foley did kind of spit out a Canadian division. And, I would like it just for this season. You got to wonder, does that mean that we're going to play nothing but Canadian teams? Just like the WHL play nothing but the division. Because the WHL traditionally, and the same with the Canadian Hockey League, they play 64 games, and there's no word on how many games next season will be in the case of the WHL. But at least be a partial season, especially, I want hockey to be back starting on time next season, regardless, how we do this upcoming season. But I just say, what do you think of everything about, divisions, how many games next season, or hockey at Lake Louise? It would be beautiful, but I doubt it can get pulled off, let's say, in a short time. Because you need, support from the National Park as well as Parks Canada. So as I say, anyway, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly do talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, and, this definitely affects the Calgary Flames, and as well as everyone else in the NHL. I also do personal vlogs and attempt to comedy, and I also do share my experiences with them on the road or at a sporting event. So if that sounds like be interesting to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey, what you need to do, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below for other ways you can follow me to follow along with this Calgary sports fan's journey. As I say, go Flames go, and be interested to see what ideas will come out for the 2020-21 NHL season, but I'll plan to keep making videos once we know more details on actuality in terms of divisions, if the division is going to be a Canadian division, or number of games, and whenever hockey is back, I'll be back with Season 3 with Calgary Flames game recaps. Like I've done, I'll be ready whenever we have games to actually talk about and recap. So as I say, I'll see you in the next video.